Welcome to Hope for Everybody, a channel that exists to highlight people and places that are all about providing hope to people in need. Check out today's episode.
Hey everybody, I'm Brandon here with Hope for Everybody. On our channel, we highlight organizations that help give hope for everybody and people whose lives have received hope. I'm here with Maria from Don't Forget to Feed Me. Maria is going to tell us some background about Don't Forget to Feed Me and how it's helping provide hope for everybody. So, Maria, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a little bit briefly about Don't Forget to Feed Me. It was founded in 2008 during that economic crisis. Two women in the area found out that a lot of people were relinquishing their pets because they couldn't afford to feed them. And that was a need that was not being met in the community. So they partnered with the Tarrant Area Food Bank initially, and they thought it would be a temporary assistance program. But then they found out, okay, this is a consistent need. It's not just during this economic crisis. So they filed for their own 501c3 status. And all these years later, here we are, still distributing pet food to families in need.
Maria, tell us about yourself.
So I am a dog lover, obviously. I love cats too. But, admittedly, I have 3 dogs. I used to be a vet tech at an animal hospital in Colleyville, so my background really helps me understand the needs of people and pets that are in their family, and of course, understand that they are more than just a pet. They are family. So I spent about 10 years in the veterinary field being a vet tech, and then I came on staff at the pet food bank, but I had been volunteering there for years and years before, so it's almost been always part of me, if you will. And I have a daughter that is 7 and her best friend's a dog. So our life is basically animals.
So sometimes you can serve the person by serving the pet.
Absolutely.
All right. So tell us about Don't Forget to Feed Me and its mission and the people it serves.
So we partner with food pantries that are distributing people food and usually other services to families, so that alongside those services, they can also get pet food. That way you don't have to go to multiple locations to get all these things, which if you're needing assistance, that's already a barrier is, you have to get to all these different places. Well, if I can go get people food and also add on that pet food at the same time, that helps everybody out.
Right. It's called a food pantry, not a human food pantry.
Yeah, exactly. So we partner with over 30 locations that are already distributing. They already have a process in place, all the different screening procedures. So we just ensure that they have that free pet food that they can add on to the service. If anybody has a pet that's watching, they know it's extremely expensive to take care of pets and to feed them. So it can be a really big burden on a family, especially when they're in some kind of crisis already. And we also partner with some senior centers. So we found that a lot of seniors that don't have other family usually around a lot, the pet is really their main companion. And so they will often give their own food to the pet instead of watching them go hungry. And obviously we don't want that to happen. And they've even reported skipping prescriptions to ensure they have enough money to buy food for their pet. So by helping those animals eat, we're also really helping the humans in their lives continue to eat and take their medication and take care of themselves.
Is there a certain grade of food that y'all try to keep a standard of when giving food to dogs, or is it bare price? Is the better funding you get, the better food you can afford to provide, or are you sometimes having to provide just the cheap stuff?
Yeah. So we try, the goal in an ideal world would be for all the pet food we're distributing to be donated, because then we have more funds to, drive the truck to deliver pet food or whatever, all those ancillary expenses outside. But we probably only get about 40% of the food donated that we need. We're distributing over 35,000 pounds of pet food a month.
Oh my God.
So we get about maybe 40% a month of that donated. So we're purchasing 60%, and it can be anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 pounds a month. So it would be awesome if we had unlimited funds and could purchase high quality, the best of the best all the time, but that's just not feasible. So we partner with a local feed store that is amazing, and they let us buy at cost. And so it's like a mid-grade food, right? It's not the worst, right? But it's not the best, but it's nutritionally adequate for animals. And what we do is we mix that food with the donated food to make it a more evenly balanced diet. And then we put those in a gallon Ziploc bag, and they're usually about 4 pounds. And that helps it be balanced and then also manageable for distribution and consistent, because you don't want to hand a 50-pound bag to somebody with a Chihuahua, right? Or a senior carry this 100-pound bag, right? But if we repackage them into manageable sizes, then it makes just more sense. And we are lucky enough that some of our partners have really big operations where they can have their volunteers do that repackaging. We only have 3 staff, so it can be hard for us to repackage for everybody. So it means a lot when the partners can help us help them by helping with that process.
So you said 10 to 15,000 pounds of dog food a month?
Yes.
How much would you...
Dog and cat.
Dog and cat. So how much would you say in money-wise are you in deficit purchasing the extra food that's needed to provide a month?
Fully budget-wise?
Yeah.
Yes. So actually we are budgeted for a deficit this year. Just because, life, right? But luckily we have a really good board and we have a really good strategic plan. So we have reserves to make sure that we can get through times like this, right? But we just have to be very careful and cognizant of adding partners. We have a wait list of 10 to 15 organizations because we're the only pet food bank in North Texas. So many organizations find out about us and they're like, well, wow, this would be great for us to offer to our clients. And agreed, but we can't add everybody, right? So we just have to be very smart about our process, and we have to be very diligent and use our money well, I guess. You know what I mean? I spend a lot of my time writing grants, soliciting funds, and getting those in-kind donations, and I watch every penny.
So people in Fort Worth area who would want to be able to donate and help pets to also help the people, there's not too many options in the area of service that you provide. So, they basically, if they want to help a pet, the best way to do it would be to come to help volunteer or donate to y'all.
Yeah. So for the food wise, we're the only pet food bank. So there are other pantries, and I want to make sure I point that out. So, if you're in the Dallas area, like Operation Kindness, SPCA, they're doing the mobile pantries, and they're doing a phenomenal job, right? But we're the only bank going to all these different locations, if that makes sense. So, yes, if somebody wants to support, they could donate pet food. We have a wish list online. They can donate funds. We also have over 70 donation locations in the greater Fort Worth area, and even in Denton. Where you could just go drop off a bag if you wanted to, instead of having to come to our warehouse or order online. If you're a tangible person, you can go put it in a box and then we'll come get it.
What does one of these locations look like? How would I notice it if I was driving by?
So we have little window decals that say donate pet food here. Of course, you may not see that if you're just passing on by, but if you're a regular patron of these locations, then you may notice that and see it. And they have a donation box that we give them with our logo on it. It's vastly like vet clinics, animal hospitals. There's some libraries, and then just some fun little shops that really care about animals that have them. So we're really targeting those people that are already going to those locations, and then they see, oh, hey, I want to do this. But there is a list on our website. If you go to donate pet food, I have a whole map and a list of every single location with their address. So if you wanted to donate in that way, you could go on there and just find whatever's closest to you, and maybe you'll find a new awesome place that you should be going anyway, right?
Right. So they would go to your website at www.don'tforgettofeedme.org, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, and that's where they could donate dog food.
Correct. Yes. If you click on donate, there are several buttons. There's one that says monetary donations, so you could obviously give us money. And then there's pet food donations that'll show you our Amazon wish list, like a Target wish list, all that, and then the physical donation location list. And then you can also make tribute donations. So if somebody passes, or somebody that lost a pet recently, you can make a donation in their honor, and we'll send them a card or a notice of some kind, and that can be really meaningful.
Okay. Before we go, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah.
All right. As a person who's involved with helping people, and not just people, but their pets, have you come in contact with a way that another individual or nonprofit was doing something that you wished you had found out about sooner to maybe help make life easier for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting question to answer, and this may not be exactly what you're going for, but the first thing that always comes to mind is the idea of mission creep. So, and if you're not familiar with that, it's when you have a mission for your organization, right? And you need to stick to that mission and do it well. And it's really hard to not get drawn into all these ancillary things that you want to help with. Like, for example, for us, that could be cat litter or vaccines, right? But if you spread yourself too thin, you're not doing any of those things at 100%. So we focus on the dog and cat food, and we do it well, and we do it to the best of our ability, and we let the experts in the other ways do their job, right? So one of our partners is Spay Neuter Network. They're amazing. They're giving the low-cost vaccines. They're spay and neutering, right? There is no sense in us branching out to do a service that they are already amazing at. So we let them do that. We do the food, and together as partners, we cover everything, but we don't creep into other issues, if that makes sense.
If you're liking this content, please help us grow. Like, subscribe, and let's keep the good times rolling. Now back to the episode.
So, in your line of helping and work, do you come in contact with people who, when you're providing your service to them, that they need help that you can't necessarily provide?
Yeah, I will say that to keep things streamlined and be good stewards of our resources, we obviously can't feed every animal on Earth, right? So we get a lot of pushback from people that want to feed feral cat colonies or just stray dogs, or they're breeders and they need help feeding, or they're animal fosters, right? And they need help. And these all these animals need to eat, and nobody is disagreeing with that. But our mission is to keep pets in their homes with their loving families. So we don't have the capacity to feed the 1,000 feral cats that are running around a field, right? We don't have the capacity to feed foster pets because there are organizations already doing that. So
let me rephrase the question. Yeah. If someone were to come to you and they needed clothing, or if they needed housing, and that's not a service that you necessarily provide, but yet you still want to help, do you believe that it would make life easier and help you more successful in helping people if there was a website where you could come in contact with other individuals and nonprofits to communicate with them?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, totally, because I talk a lot, so I know a lot of connections and places, but it's only through the years of being involved in nonprofit that I have those resources. And of course, people change, right? So Bob may be my contact at XYZ place, but if he leaves, I don't know, and then it's hard to get in contact with that organization again if it was just that relationship, if that makes sense. So yes, it is always very handy to have somewhere that you can go. So if you don't know, you can find out, or you can do a quick search.
Like to refer people to
yes.
So Hope for Everybody is something, it's going to be a database website where we're bringing nonprofits in communication with each other and those who need their services in contact with the nonprofits. So in this situation, say someone came to you they needed dog food, but they were also homeless. You would now have the means to refer them to Hope for Everybody, where they could create a profile and then they could come in contact with a nonprofit that might be able to help them further.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that would be affordable at $50 a month?
I think it would depend on your budget, but I think that if your goal is to ensure that you're helping everybody, then yeah, I'm sure that would be feasible.
Okay. In your experience, have you come to realize that there's people who do abuse and use the services and resources like you provide in a way that's not necessarily beneficial to their own well-being?
I think it's hard to, let me rephrase. I try to not look at things in the sense that people are ever coming to get assistance in a bad light, right? Because asking for assistance is already a struggle.
Hard enough. Yeah.
So I would hope and think that they would hesitate to take advantage. However, of course, there's always somebody who's taking advantage of something, right? Or maybe they began to rely on that assistance and they don't know how to get it in another form or fashion, right? But fortunately for us, we don't serve clients directly. Since we partner with those distribution partners, they're really the frontline people. So I don't want to say that I have a really great answer because I'm not every day looking at those people in the face. But I will say, to go back to what I said previously, there are people that get frustrated when the services don't align with what they think they need. Like if it's a foster organization or a rescue and they're upset that we can't help them with food, that can be frustrating because we don't fail to see that you need assistance, but that's not something we can do, and we can't just make exceptions all over the place, right? So people can get really frustrated, and I think when they're in a hard spot, they can make unwise choices.
Right. So, like, for instance, in the ministry that I'm a part of that has helped ultimately change my life and give me stability that I never had before, in the acceptance process when people apply and then we decide to bring them in, usually it's on a scholarship. Sometimes they do have the funds to help pay to provide for their own way, but usually whenever they come in for free, and we, within the first week, spend $350 to $600 on them. And if they come and they seem promising, but they turn around and then within a week or two bail out, then that's money that could have been spent on someone else who was willing and ready to receive the help.
Oh, for sure.
And this happens often.
Yeah.
So in a sense where that person may be doing that to multiple nonprofits, they may not necessarily in their whole intention be intending to use and abuse the resources that are provided, but they are. And in a sense like that, do you believe it would be helpful for a nonprofit that provides help in that type of way to know whether or not the individual who they're about to decide on helping is doing something like that?
I'm sure that would be valuable information to have, and this isn't what you asked, but I think it would be cool if there was an organization specifically for those needs that could say, hey, we see that you consistently are requesting, these services and then maybe not utilizing them the way that they're meant to be or whatever, what can we do to help you understand the process, or like, what's the barrier? Is there something else going on that we don't understand? You know what I mean? But obviously resources are thin for all of us as nonprofits, so we want to make sure we're funneling those resources to people and places that are going to use them appropriately.
Right, and in a way that's going to be most beneficial to their success.
For sure.
So, like, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was saying, some people, it's so hard for them to just accept help. Maybe they might need counseling specifically on that.
Yeah.
So maybe, through Hope for Everybody, not just nonprofits, but in rehabs being made available to the people who are in need of the services, counseling might be made available as well. So that way, if they are in that situation, a nonprofit, and they see that person doing that type of thing, then they could be referred to counseling. And then once they get that counseling, then they might be in a step to receive even more help from nonprofits than they were able to at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Because it gives it's an opportunity to show a line of redemption for people, because they may go to one nonprofit and then they could get a bad rep and not be able to get help from any other nonprofits, but that's not what Hope for Everybody is about.
Oh, for sure.
It's about giving people the opportunity and the credit for the effort that they put forth to actually make a difference and receive help to change their lives. Well, so you do believe that would be useful?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we go, would you like to tell people anything else about your nonprofit, or whether it be donations that in monetary form, like a number that you would like to try to meet by the end of every month to maybe make things different? Or what's your phone number?
It's 817-334-0727. And like I said, we have a whopping 3-person staff, but if you call, it's going to be me, Dylan, or Debbie that answer that phone, and we'll answer any questions. We're an open book. That's one of the things I'm very proud of is when people stop by, we'll stop what we're doing and give you a tour, answer questions. We don't have anything tied. And if you want to donate, that's great. But, if you just want to spread the word to make sure that people both that want to support us and that need help know that we exist, that's always great too. And of course, social media is free. You can just share about it because we find many times people, even 15 years later, we've been around, they're like, wait, there's help with pet food? And that struggle kind of goes back to your point. They don't even know it's a resource that's available. And that makes me sad because, is it a reason somebody gave up their pet just because they didn't know? And that's heartbreaking. So just spreading the word really is invaluable. And you never know who you're going to touch on that can help us or we can help them. But yeah. So.
Is there a limit of dog food that you will provide to a single household? Or is it per dog?
So, excuse me. So the determination of how much goes to each household is really based on what our partners are doing because they all have different situations, right? So some of these locations are serving thousands upon thousands of people a day and they have everybody sign up and there's like a very stringent process, right? But some of these locations, if you come in and you just need to grab a bag, you can. So it really just depends on the location. However, to make sure we're managing those resources good, we have our partners do a needs assessment every year. So we make sure that they're sitting down and going, okay, this is how many people need dog and cat food. This is how much is reasonable to give them. So when they request a number from us, it's not arbitrary. It's not, 5,000 sounds good,
Yeah.
And we have had people say, like, I think we'll just start there. And I'm like, no, listen, we have to buy this food. So we can't just pull a number out of a hat.
Yeah, but the more the better.
Oh, for sure, yes. And
because
so
dogs are always going to be hungry.
Absolutely. But some, smaller organizations, if they're only serving 10 families a month, well, then they obviously only need a small amount and then they're sufficient. Well, we have other partners who are serving thousands and thousands, so they're getting thousands and thousands of pounds a month. But it makes sense because they're serving that many people. But we do a lot of work to make sure that we get data and feedback, and it can be exhausting because you're already doing a lot of work, and so to have to collect more information and do more fact finding and such can be kind of stressful. But we ask that our partners do that so that we are confident that we're spending our money correctly and appropriately, and we're, when people donate to us or support us, they're confident that we're doing the right thing with that support.
So you have a location, I assume, right?
Yes.
And you have a need for volunteers, possibly. You said that that at the food pantries, sometimes the people would need to do the unpacking and separating of the food and stuff. Would it be useful to have more volunteers, and could you house them at your location? Not like let them live there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we have a couple different volunteer opportunities. The one that's most popular and that everyone loves is to repackage the food because it's very, community. You have your friends, you repackage, you get like in a groove. So that's always needed and great. But we do have some regular volunteers who come every week that's the thing that they want to do. But in the warehouse, we also need help cleaning. I mean, it's not fun, right? And it's not glorious, but it's regardless a need because, again, with 3 staff, Dylan, our warehouse associate, is, managing this food, doing inventory, cleaning, and there's only so many hours in the day. So if there's people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, we would love to have assistance doing some deep cleaning. We also go through all the food before it's distributed. So we're checking for recall. We're checking for expiration status. Is it damaged? Did it get bugs in it? If I'm not going to feed that to my pet, I'm not going to send it out for someone to feed it to theirs. So we spend a lot of time on boring processes and procedures, but checking every single bag that comes in before we decide it's okay to go out. We also need volunteers to help pick up those donations from locations because, as you can imagine, driving a diesel truck to 70 locations is not smart and would be an unwise way to spend our resources. So we have a road team that will go pick up, 40 pounds over here and then bring it to the warehouse. And that's great. And we want that food, but it's a better resource to have a volunteer go do it than sending our truck. Lastly, we have an event team And that's to really help us get the word out in the community. Like I mentioned earlier, that's something that we're really striving to do better at, because people don't know pet food insecurity is an issue, or they don't know it's something they can get help with. So we have some volunteers that will go work community events, like Fort Worth Community Collaborative is a free clothing closet, which seems random. And what does that have to do with pets? Well, people are going there to get that service, and they'll have people set up with other services, and we'll go there. And so as 3 staff, we can't be everywhere and do our job. So having an event team is very helpful, so that we can say, okay, this Saturday we really want to be at this event, but we can't clone ourselves. So can you go out there? And that's always very, very helpful to us as well.
So would it be ideal if there was people in your location, or in the location where each one of these drop-off points are, that you knew about, that were willing to come and they were to be designated a certain drop-off point to come and bring in every so often?
Yes, absolutely. And we have some people that do that, and it is an amazing help. So we always need people for that. And I think I mentioned before, we're in Denton County, Tarrant County, Johnson County, and Ellis County, both distribution-wise and taking donations. So there's a lot of space geologically. Geologically, is that the word? No, that's not it. Geographically, thank you. Yeah, not dinosaurs. That we need assistance with.
Right. Okay. Let's pause for a second. Okay. Do you want to talk about costs, like as far as like rent, diesel costs?
I don't care.
Okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to put that out there or not. But okay. So, how much is it costing for rent for the warehouse a month?
It's bonkers.
Bonkers.
Yeah, that's the official word for it, bonkers. I mean, as you can imagine, land and rental situations for everybody, individuals and businesses, nonprofits, is a lot more. It continues to increase every year. So actually, oddly enough, rent is one of the things that we are struggling with to balance in our budget, right? Mm-hmm. But it's something that we just have to figure out. But it would be awesome if somebody was like, man, I want to donate to help with rent.
Right. So I see, like you said with your mission, focus on the food. But like when it comes to donations, there's other things that are necessary to keep the operation rolling.
Absolutely, yes.
So like rent, there's diesel that needs to be paid, and also the staff. So it's been a pleasure having you, Maria. Thank you for the work that you're doing in our community to help with the pets, the dogs, the cats, the keeping a happy family, keeping families together, because if someone loses their animal, it can be like losing a kid.
Absolutely.
And I just really appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm Brandon, and this is Maria. This has been an interview on Hope for Everybody. If you've liked what you've seen, please like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. God bless.
We've reached the end of today's episode of Hope for Everybody. If you'd like to be a part of the show and tell us your story, please visit us online at hopeforeverybody.org.